when sorrows like sea billows roll.
Whatever my lot, thou hast taught me to say.
It is well with my soul.
Asbury family and anyone else who's getting a chance to watch this. My name is Sean Smith. I'm the pastor at Asbury United Methodist Church, and these two fine ladies are going to introduce themselves in a moment. We have set aside some time to make a video on dealing with anxiety, fear, grief, and anxious. Just the whole process of anxiousness and dealing with the stresses that have come from the massive cultural changes that we are undergoing because of a virus. This tiny, unseen little thing has become for us a huge part of our day-to-day life. And how we interact with that reflects the physical, the social, and the spiritual reality of our being. I'm going to turn it over to one of my co-presenters here.
I'm Lisa Platner, and I am a nurse. I'm not a psych nurse, but I'm a psych patient. And sometimes that's important to know, because there's nothing wrong with being depressed or things like that. And the first step to recovery is always acknowledgement of that. I'm also here as an educator, and we're, like Sean said, we're here to help people get through this. And I'll turn it over to the next presenter.
Good morning. My name is Renee Morris, and I'm retired from work that I've done for many years, which is working with people in crisis, domestic violence, sexual assault. And so the things that we're going to talk about today are topics and real issues that I've dealt with myself as well as clients for many years.
And I'd kind of like to start this talking about the different types of people, because there's people that have no signs of mental illness. There's people who have mental illness, but it's just underneath the surface. And there's also people who have signs and symptoms of mental illness. Now, the problem is we're all at different stages of this. And so it's going to affect everybody just a little bit different. And we need to realize that not everybody's the same. Even two depressed patients would react differently with the same diagnosis. Just like two who did not have a mental health diagnosis would react differently. God made us separate creatures, and He did that on purpose.
Yeah. So Lisa, if I'm understanding you, I'll put it like a carpentry spin on it. If you go down to the Lowe's and you look into 2x4s, no 2x4 is going to handle the same stress load exactly the same. And so
Correct.
You kind of try to find matching. Is that what you're trying to go for? We're
right.
all created kind of the same shape and same size, but at some point when we go to stress, we have different areas where we fracture.
That's
or
right.
How we deal with it anyway.
That's right. Renee, would you agree with that?
I would, because yes, I know how I deal with depression definitely may be different than, because we're put together differently and our experiences are different. Our needs are different. And so I think the main thing is just honoring that when you know, as our neighbors, as our brothers and sisters, allowing people to grieve what works for them. I did a podcast on grief many months ago, and it is tailor-made for the person. You know, how I grieve may be me going to the park and walking every day, and somebody else may be, you know, in the privacy of their home. However, just respecting, I guess that's my main thing, is just respecting the differences, and what it takes for one is maybe different for another. Yeah.
But there's nothing wrong with admitting that, yes, you are depressed. Our society sees that as a weakness, where where that's not necessarily the truth. Those of us who have dealt with it for several years know that it's all in how we take it.
Okay.
And it's all in how we respond to it. And if we allow God into our lives, he can help take some of that load away from us as well.
Yeah. Huh.
Then you add something that's going on right now, the pandemic, and it adds stress to all these types of people.
Mm-hmm.
And then they change all the rules practically.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to respond different to the pandemic. People who have been through things like the depression or some of these society changing events are going to respond differently than those who've never been through one of these things.
Yeah.
Then the thing we need to remember is that we're going to get through it.
Yes. Yes.
But we need to pull together. And even though they're calling it social distancing, I don't like that. I think it's more physical distancing.
It is.
Unless we allow it to become social distancing. Like the three of us have found a way to get together and do this video to help those others that get the chance to see this.
It's going to be a new way. I think it also is sensitizing us to our neighbor. Okay. On our block, people are outside, at some point in the day, in the latter part of the afternoon, in the evening, you can see people sitting outside, driving by, and they wave. We are acknowledging one another now. The humanity has come back.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're all vulnerable and we're all the same.
We're all in the same boat.
Yeah. We are.
Yeah. Well, back in the fall, we were going through Walter Brueggemann's book on the Sabbath and how we need a Sabbath. And one of the points that he drew out, he said a lot more eloquently than I can, is that in the ancient world, when you had the Sabbath, it was for everyone, and it was a gigantic and very profound way of equalizing the whole society, because everybody was at rest, from the lowest to the highest, and you had the sense of just peacefulness. And it was rather, since everybody was equal in not working, it was a societal transforming thing, in that you had to recognize that everybody was human. And right now is a good chance for us to recognize the humanity of everyone around us.
Yes. Yeah. Because we need each other, and we've always needed each other.
Right.
Whether my husband and I went to one of the nurseries to look at some trees, and the gentleman is, he's been there for years, and so it was just wonderful just to listen to his story. And when I got ready to go, I went to put my hand out, which is normal, and so he just did his elbow. And so we did our elbows together, and I said, our world has changed forever. We won't take each other for granted anymore. Now that we stand across the fence to speak, because my neighbor is sitting on his porch and we're sitting on our porch, but we don't get too close, but it has leveled the playing ground. It definitely has.
One of my favorite online things is the Facebook is this great kind of barometer of social stressors and things like that you can kind of watch and are dealing with your grief and stress in this way and this way and that way, and you kind of just watch it and you're like, wow, you can kind of see all of our neuroses on display. And then I'm going, what am I showing the world? But one of my favorites right now is that the idea in 9 months we're going to have a baby boom. I find that particularly amusing. In the time of social distancing, we're going to have a baby boom. But
really,
there's a bunch of memes out there about that particular idea. And I find myself thinking, you're right. We're not going to take each other for granted. And I hope we can inspire, the kids that come after this. I mean, one of the things that kind of hit us is, you've got, I think last year was 18 years. So you had kids that were born, raised, and graduated in the shadow and the social psychological shadow of 9/11, but didn't actually live through September 11th. And so there's going to be people that don't grow up in this, but they're going to grow up in the shadow of this. And it's curious to see how that's going to affect them. I mean, I think it's important to recognize that stress, like, so as you were talking about the people with you have people that are mentally kind of healthy, people that are a little bit, I'm not trying to do this hierarchically, and that's kind of a hard thing, but so you got mental people that are healthy, you got people that are, kind of struggling, but doing okay. And then you've got people that have deeper things that are going on, and they all handle their stress slightly differently. It's important to recognize that right now we've basically been asked to completely change our behavior. And as a pastor, there are times that I've asked people to change their behavior. And I can tell you how that's usually met. And I think most from the grins on y'all's faces, you understand where I'm going with this. And if we go to the doctor and the doctor looks at us and says, hey, you need to change your diet, we kind of look at the doctor and then we drive by a burger place on the way home. It's
I'll start tomorrow.
Yeah, I'll start tomorrow, right? Like there's this, when am I going to start? Well, and then you make a mistake and I'll start the next day. And then by the time a week's gone by, you're actually eating worse than you were when you went into the doctor in the first place.
Absolutely.
And here we've had just a massive number of changes just thrust on us all at once. I mean, gosh, I'm just so proud of how teachers have risen to the occasion of putting their stuff online.
Yeah.
I know for me, when I teach, human interaction is like where I get my love and my joy. Like this is something that really brings out my teaching. And all of a sudden, no, all teaching is online. I'm like,
yeah.
And how big that step has been, because it's not simple to learn this software. It's not simple for parents to have to do this as well. So parents and grandparents are facilitating this massive setup. And you have the nurses and the doctors that are going to the hospitals every day, and they care. And now they're having to change. They're having to go to meetings. And as much as where we can kind of tune out and turn the news off, go on a walk, that's their job. When they go in, that's what they have to deal with. And we just seen such a huge step up in how things go.
And one thing, Sean, that I kind of hear in the background is we're surrounded by heroes.
Yeah.
Everybody is stepping up in their own way. The teachers, the healthcare providers, the truck drivers, the people who are helping us get our groceries, the housekeepers in the hospitals. Has anybody thought about them?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, everywhere we look, we're seeing the face of another hero.
Yeah.
Because we're just trying to get by.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
when
courage is one of those underappreciated virtues.
Say that again.
Courage is one of those underappreciated virtues, because we don't
Right.
always recognize that. I mean, like we said, with all the different types of mental illness and things like that, it's really hard to know how courageous someone's being. And now you're seeing it, and it's underappreciated that some of them are overcoming massive hurdles right now. And sorry, Renee, you had something.
I was just thinking, I went to Jason's Deli the other day, and it is closed for people to come in and sit down. But they have rearranged the store that you can buy turkey and potato chips and bread. You can still order food. And then they gave free cookies. I mean, that right there is that particular business sensitized to the needs, and as well as protecting each other and themselves. But you felt good. I did. I was able to buy some turkey and bread, and then to see free cookies. Their cookies are the best. And so that the business, being sensitized to what's going on in our community felt good. It felt good. So It was a plug for Jason's Deli. I don't know.
I know where I want to go to lunch for today.
Yeah, we want
But we don't
the
want to
free
swamp them,
cookies.
so see how it goes.
But and that's an important part too. Is one way we can support our community is to go to these places and keep them open
Yeah.
because they're
you're right.
hurting too.
Yeah.
Well, that brings us to another one of the stressors: is this profound uncertainty with the economy. How is it going to react? I mean, Europe has 35 days of paid vacation that almost everyone takes off at about the same time every year, and they seem to function okay. But now we're having this enforced lockdown, and our economy is understandably uncertain about what the future is going to bring. I mean, it's another stressor to bring into the mix.
Yeah.
And trying to help and support local businesses is incredibly important right now because they need their paycheck. Find our ways to do it. I mean, I am particularly proud of HEB's preparation for this, and also it just seems to be for their commitment to their employees' safety. They've really the way they've handled it, at least in Odessa, has been remarkable.
Well, and they made us get control of ourselves too by putting the limits on buying. I really think that was very smart, quick.
Yeah.
A quick response.
Well, Lisa, let me take this in kind of inspired maybe to go in another direction. What are so when we're talking about mental health, part of our goal is to get people to say, hey, no, I am struggling. To be able to be honest with themselves and say, this is a stressor. This is a stressor, and this is something like these are the kind of the symptoms that tell me that, I kind of need help. I mean, what I've noticed in myself in the anxiety is that I've been a little bit shorter in my temper. I always call this emotional whack-a-mole. It's where you're bothered by one thing over here, but you act out over here. And I have my wife going and looking at me going, Sean, are you okay? And I'm like, I think I'm okay. But then I notice there's all these tiny little behaviors that I'm doing that are tells that this is stressing me out, anxious about what's going on. And I've noticed I have a little bit shorter temper than I would like. Now, it's not flying off the handle usually, but it's being quicker to respond with frustration than normal. And that's been kind of one of my like ticks and tells that's telling me what are some of the things that you would say are good kind of indicators that you are stressed out, that you are anxious.
Things like not being able to concentrate on a task or focus and get something done.
Okay.
I've had that one.
I do. It's kind of like, the dog that's pointing at something and there's a squirrel, I have a lot of squirrels in my life that distract me. And sometimes I want to be distracted.
Yeah.
And sometimes I don't need to be. I need to be busy doing the task I need to be doing. Another thing is pulling back a little bit and being in thought a lot. Sometimes that's an indicator that you're under a lot of stress. Some people do the opposite and are more active, but most people will pull back just a little bit. Then another thing that I can think of is sleeping in.
Okay.
Or
not sleeping.
Or not
Insomnia
sleeping at all.
can be a big indication.
Eating too much, eating not enough.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can't tell which one I'm in. But I myself have a tendency to pull back in, and that's just the time I need to be pushing out.
Okay.
I need to go outside and maybe walk up the block or ride up the block in my case. And even if I don't see anybody, getting out in the sunshine.
Absolutely.
Getting out and away from this cabin fever, which everybody has. And that,
Well,
that
I would
adds
say
to the stress.
obsessing over a task, like really obsessing over a task, like not being. I mean, I've seen some people like clean obsessively when they're having high anxiety.
Mm.
That's actually one of my behaviors that I'll do for when I'm getting stressed out is I'll, instead of taking care of the tasks that I know I need to take care of, I'll go like re-clean something again.
Uh-huh.
And I've seen that happen as well. You get obsessed with particular tasks, and it's never good enough. Like, I need to clean this again, and that
Mhm.
indicates a little
Or
bit
sometimes
of
people will
stress or
project that on the
anxiety as
people.
well.
They'll project that on the people they're with. Like
Mm.
my boys have got all kinds of chats to do because I'm because I'm stressing.
Well, we can also project on other people as a way of getting out of our own anxiety. Hey, that person's really stressed out over there. And these, again, are all kind of fairly normal ways of dealing with normal levels of anxiety. And they're going to be coming out, especially around a change in routine, which all of us are undergoing right now, and a change in just the average level of fear. And uncertainty. That's another one. Uncertainty seems to be a big
Yeah. And for me, that uncertainty keeps me in today. That's the motivator to stay in today. Because if I think about this could last like how long, I don't even want to go there. I just want to stay in today, okay? Because I can process that. I can, or I can handle the known. Okay, today these are the tasks. This is what I need to do. Okay, what are you doing? And we're such creatures of habit. You wake up and you get to moving, and I've got this meeting today, or I'm going to go do this, and all of that is it's not. When you look at I don't even look at my calendar anymore. I was a calendar person that I wake up in the morning and I flip that open before I flip the word open. Okay, so what are my responsibilities? And so there is nothing on the calendar. Okay. And I don't even look at it. And that has been a weight lifted. So living in the moment is the biggest challenge. And being okay with that. Putting something else in those moments that you would have because I'm not working. Okay, so what's in that moment? Whether it's going to because I can't go to the store. My kids won't let me go to the store. Okay, so
Yeah.
So what do I get to do? What do I get to do? But rather than what do I have to do? What do I get to do? And so it's definitely a huge change for
And
us.
see, I have a little different perspective, Renee, because I am working. I
Yeah.
still have to look at the calendar. And in order to keep myself in the right frame of mind, I get up in the morning, same time, take my shower, get dressed up like I'm going to work, and I sit here and do my work.
Okay. Yeah.
Um,
And we
Yeah.
talked about that with church,
That's
whether we get dressed, like dress up to go to church at home, or do we do the pajama thing? And, I think both are equally valid. And that might sound strange. I can see a really good case for making this an occasion that you're dressing up in this kind of sense of pretense that you're going to be with people, even though you're not physically with them. And then I can also see a case, mostly because I wouldn't mind going to church in my pajamas once in a while, not all the time, but going to my church in the pajamas, could be fun.
well, you wear a nightgown every time.
I do, and I absolutely love it. It's actually, the last couple of Sundays, this is going out in public, so people will know this now. I've been barefoot when I've been preaching. I've come in with sandals and I've got my robe on. I'm like, they're not filming my feet. I'm going to be barefoot while I'm preaching. But Moses walked barefoot. So I feel like I'm not equal there, but there's at least that connection with some type of biblical authority.
Yeah.
But that being said, I want to go back to that sense of where, Renee, we haven't asked you yet. What are the target behaviors that you see that indicate stress and anxiety?
Eating.
Eating.
I've always, and I still do it. Just I eat several little meals, but that's like the highlight of of the day. So, what are we having for dinner, or what are we having for breakfast? I guess it's the oral satisfaction of something tasting good, and the preparation, and then the family eating, and then after that, then everybody kind of goes back to their room. You know, that's a time of community that we can come together and eat and cook. Mom, what are you cooking today? And so that's been good. And then the front porch. I'm telling you, that front porch is saving our life. Yeah. And so, and neighbors on each side. It's funny at 4:00, 5:00, you come outside and people are outside. They are waving at each other. It has done something.
It's kind of like we've gone back to a time where that was appropriate behavior.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
we have a sense in like the number of work hours per week have just been ever increasing, and Odessa is particularly bad about it. But just the number of, how many hours people work, and then we like our air conditioned bubbles, and now we're like, oh, we're stuck in our air conditioned bubbles. Let's get out of them. I mean, and we would have done this anyway, but we just didn't have time. Okay, I want to move this. We could have made time, I suppose, but we were like, I think I'm going to enjoy Tiger King first. You guys probably haven't seen this, but there's a meme going around for a Netflix series about a guy who, I guess, rescued tigers and then had an environmental activist try to shut him down, and so he hired a killer to get him. And this has been like a way that people have been de-stressing, is watching these silly, kind of a silly reality TV program, which is not a bad way of doing it, I suppose. Just kind of a little bit of escapism into something that is both absurd and entertaining. But that, and this is my segment here, where are we, for me, trying to find ways to, in a trust of God and trusting ourselves into God's hands, to answer the call to take on the tasks that are going to help us deal with the anxiety in a constructive way, in a way that makes that bold declaration that God is good all the time, even now, with our behaviors, not just with our lips, but with our actual, like, concrete behaviors. And so, in a more simple way of putting it, what are the ways that you recommend engaging with or dealing with our stress or anxiety?
There's lots of ways right now. We need to look at what there is out there, because there really is a lot. We were very blessed to be in the technology age where we could do this Zoom program. Seeing each other's faces, using FaceTime to talk to your mama, particularly when she's having surgery in El Paso. But and you can't be there. That's a good thing and a good way of being there. You can still seek the support from family, friends, mentors, the pastor, when his free time.
Which I will make more available to you if you guys have need. There's been a lot of phone calls over the last couple of weeks, and God is good, but and that's what we're here for. We're here to support you, and I really believe that Asbury, the Church of Asbury, if any person one person needed a chance to talk, they would be open to just being there, not even having a topic at hand, but just talking to them. I think there's a lot of people here at Asbury that would be very open to talking, and I'm always open to talk.
Well, on that note, I'm part of one of Sarah's outreaches of calling people at home. The people that I've called so far have been overjoyed with having somebody call. I even got one of them who wants to help call people too. So it's kind of
That's awesome.
neat. But it's another way to outreach to people, to let them know, hey, you're important, and we need to pay attention to each other.
Absolutely.
I had a friend that I hadn't talked to for years text me yesterday saying, Ken and I are so scared we're not going anywhere. And my first reaction was, oh my God, what do you need?
Yeah.
Do you need anything? And she she says, oh no, we've got plenty of that. But it's giving us an opportunity to talk to people we haven't talked to for a long
Absolutely.
time.
Yes. And I do take those moments. That is one thing. Someone that I haven't talked to, and we have promised, how it's like, we're going to get together, we're going to go have lunch, and that's been 6 months ago. And so now is the time that that I'm calling and just checking in. It's a check-in. How are you? Thinking about you. And I think that is bridging that gap.
Yes,
Too.
it is.
Yeah. Miss Tony, I know that's my girl. And so it's so good to be able to connect. Yeah.
Well, and now one thing I caution you is don't call those friends that make you feel bad.
I don't have those.
Make the ones, well, they're, everybody has them. The ones that bring you down.
Well, and I would say bring out anger in you as well. But they're,
Yeah.
Going back, I think connecting people is probably one of the best ways to deal with our stress right now. And but going back to another more basic level, I think creating and maintaining a schedule. This is going to sound strange. It's the illusion of control, and most people have to admit that all schedules are in fact illusions. But having that illusion of control and ritual, most of the time ritual gets disparaged in our culture, like, oh, that's just ritual. Having a ritual can
keep you sane.
A focus and a time, it keep you sane. And so, especially for kids, one of the things you'll notice really fast with kids, if you don't keep a schedule, they start getting mad and fighting at each other. If you have a schedule and the expectations for the time and the usage of the time are clear, and explained, then they're going to be less stressed. And if they're less stressed, you're going to be less stressed, especially as a parent or grandparent who's taking care of them. And having physical activity scheduled in, having time for academics, having a variety of tasks at hand.
That's good.
Is a really good way of kind of keeping the illusion of control in such a way that it lets you lower your anxiety. It also helps you set expectations of your own.
Well, in nursing school, they tell us, let them have the control that they want as long as it's healthy. Meaning, if you've got a hospitalized patient and maybe you've got 2 different hospital gowns they could wear, let them pick which one.
Yeah.
It gives you that little bit of control.
Yeah.
We did that when Jane and Lucy were like 3 or 4, and they were, they never pick out an outfit for themselves. So Courtney started laying out 2 outfits. Which outfit do you want? And that gave them the illusion of the control, and then they were perfectly fine. And I never would have thought to do that, but Courtney is, of course, much wiser than I am.
Yeah. I like what you said about having a plan, because that I go back to the calendar, and so that has been an adjustment. And so and I believe that the Holy Spirit has led me to do just what you said, having a system. This is what the day starts. This is what I do. This is what, and so it has helped settle me. That I get up and I have my coffee, I read the paper, I talk to my husband, and then at some point I'm deciding whether I'm going to go walk at Buffalo Wallow or go out on the porch or whatever the choices are. But it's not just an open, blank, vacant time. It's I'm putting something in there that is beneficial to me,
And
mind, body, and
we're very much creatures of habit. We
habit.
feel more
Secure.
if there is a routine to some of our things.
What about in control?
And control, yeah.
You know, that I can control
what I'm
something.
talking
I
about, too,
can't
the prayer that
control
can be
this,
prayerful.
but I can control this, you know.
Yeah. Well, we can prayerfully do this. This is not something you do just like willy-nilly. And hear me this. If you're so stressed out that creating a schedule is making more stress for you,
Oh no.
don't get into that trap. Be gentle with yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, one of the favorite things that I like to teach anybody is that when you read through the fruit of the Spirit, love, joy, peace, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, generosity, and self-control, most of the time when we think about those, we think about how we deal with other people with those things.
People, you're right.
But you have to turn that into yourself as well. Remember, love your neighbor as yourself. And so when you think of having peace with yourself, joy with yourself, kindness, most of us are not terribly good with being kind with ourselves or gentle.
Yeah,
I have a friend that
that can
does
really
a lot
help.
of
And so if you're having struggles,
I have a friend who does a lot of self-talk that's degrading to her. She says, "Oh, I'm so stupid. I can't do that." And da da da. And I say, "Hey, quit it. You're talking about my friend, and you're a child of God."
And we need to accept that identity.
And you know what I say? Would you be your friend? Then be your friend. And you know, it makes people think, because they can be a friend to somebody else, but we don't practice being a friend. Would you be your friend? I would hang out with friends.
I struggle with that myself too.
See,
you know.
Yeah.
I know Renee's had some trouble with that too, but
but
she's on the other side.
I'm on the other side. I'm on the other side. I would hang out with Renee. That's why I can go. And being an only child has always been. I always only had one or two best friends, but mainly it was just me and a single mom. And so that's why I can go to Buffalo Wallow and sit on a bench and be there for a couple of hours. Just whether I'm looking at the ducks, talking to looking at the families, reading a book, I can be alone and I'm okay with it. Yeah, because I'm alone with Renee and the Lord. And so it works for me.
Well, and I want to go back. If you're coming to the point where you're struggling creating a schedule for yourself and that you're too stressed out, then I would go back to what Renee just said. If you can, give yourself the gentleness, be relaxed a little bit. Don't worry about the schedule for the moment. Go out and walk. Go out and ride your scooter, bike. The roads are unsurprisingly empty right now. Go and use those because you'll be far enough away from people, and take the cautions you need to do, but get that physical activity. God created us not as just spiritual beings or mental beings. He created us as physical beings. The other thing is create a really good meal for yourself. So these are the simple low ones. Go walk, create a really good warm meal for yourself. When I was backpacking, I led people backpacking in New Mexico for a while. And one of the things that I discovered was that at the end of the day, when you feel like it's the end of the world, you sit down and you have a hot meal. Heck, this can be a Stouffer's lasagna if it needs to be. But if you sit down and have a hot meal, psychologically that does something to you. There was one study that showed that our guts have more neurons, or have about the same number of neurons as our brain. So your intestines feel things as much as your brains do, or something.
Really?
Like that. Okay. Is that accurate, Lisa? You're more medical than
I would say so.
That's great.
It's at least close. And what I would say there is that you need to understand that how you feed yourself. And we talk about food. We talked about overeating as being a symptom. So schedule times to eat are better. But if you need that just kind of de-stress, or have a nice warm meal, take the time to prepare it. Heck, throw a candle up somewhere. hopefully on a stand so you're not lighting your house on fire. We don't want to put first responders at risk right now. Remember, we got to respect their space. But have that nice meal and eat and have joy, even if it's by yourself. And when we're by ourselves, I know it's very tempting to crack the can of Spam and eat it with a spoon. Don't do that. Make that Spam into a Spamwich. I mean,
No spam.
there was a meme that went around a couple days ago that said Hormel made its first batch in Spam in 1939. Last week, they finally started on their second batch.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I like the delay response. Yeah, the Spam is wonderful. There's like Spam cooking contests. That might be a fun way of doing things. Get a group of friends together and have a Spam cooking contest, and then just be thankful that you don't have to taste their dish.
Good. Okay, that helps.
So food, physical activity. Look, it can be tempting right now in this. The joy of the technology that we have is that we can connect with one another. Mm. But I want to de-technologize, because our bodies are not made to be in front of screens all day long. That's just not how we're made. So you need to get out there and get the exercise. You need to sit down and have a meal. There's this passage in Isaiah where Isaiah, in the midst of a siege, like the Babylonians are at the gates. I'm hoping I get the story right. They're at the gates, right? It's the end of the world in terms of Jerusalem, and they're thinking that there's no chance to get out. Isaiah is told by God to go buy a field. And he goes and buys a field and stamps it and says, this is his sign that he has hope. I saw a friend yesterday online gardening. And he had created his nice rows and his furrows, and he was planting and watering. And that is a sign of hope. So do something that has a sign of hope too. I mean, go plant a flower, plant a set of flowers, plant a whole set of get your one of those little inside planters and plant. These are the things that can really make a huge difference because they are acts that say we're hopeful. That this is the end of the world as we know it, but it is not the end of the world that God is going to work in and do things through. And I always feel, at some point we get to a point in our life where something happens and it's never going to go back to being the same. And we have reached literally the end of the world, and God is saying, take one more step and see what he has for you. Okay. Take a step off the end of the world, because it might be the end of your world, but God's inviting you into a new one. Those are that. Yeah.
If it is so bad you can't make a schedule, and none of these things that Sean has brought up are working, reach out for help.
Amen.
There are people there, and there's nothing wrong with saying, hey, I need some help.
Absolutely.
And that might mean talking to somebody like me or Renee who's been through it, or it might mean talking to a professional like Sean or one of the mental health professionals that are available they're doing telehealth now.
Yeah, and I do have a few people to recommend people to. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, NPR's been advertising for a help away or something like that. I have to find the link and put it in there. But it's like a little 45-minute session that you can call someone and talk to. And that's a big deal. Because look, none of us are getting through this unchanged.
No.
None of us are. And so
we'll be better. I believe we'll be better. We'll be more cognizant. We'll be more sensitized and not just our head in a phone or, just ignoring people. That's one thing, that we'll acknowledge one another. Good morning, with a smile, and just be glad that the world is somewhat returned back, but like you said, it won't ever be the same. Yeah, hopefully.
But none of us are, like I said, you're absolutely right. There's hope in this, that we're going to come together more as a society and going forward.
Oh, sure.
And recognize that, we are, what is the Henry V line? We are the band of brothers. We are the noble few, We will toast at St. Crispin's Day. If you're not familiar with that reference, I'm
No,
sorry.
I'm not.
But
Yeah.
it's an awesome thing. But if you remember where the speech from Band of Brothers is, it's from Henry V. It's a Shakespeare play.
Okay.
But the point that I'm trying to make is that if you're struggling, you are not alone. We are all struggling. And just knowing, one of the things that I find that helpful, profoundly helpful, in whether it's marital counseling or things like that, is to know that we are struggling. To know that this is not easy. And if you need to call someone to talk to them, if you need to call and be with somebody virtually, so right now we're saying physically distance, but if you need to be somewhere virtually, that's not something to be ashamed of. That's something to acknowledge and say, you know what? God can speak in those moments, and let him. Start early. Don't let it get to the panic point. That's why we went through the whole things of the symptoms of being stressed out. And if you're having some of those symptoms of being stressed out, if you're having short temper, if you're overeating, or you're feeling isolated or sad all the time, or you wanting to withdraw, or you're hyper obsessive, and you notice some of those things, call. And preferably call somebody with a sense of humor, because then it becomes more fun. But call somebody. I mean, don't just sit there and wait. Don't and know that people care about you, even if in this time. And this is don't
tough.
hesitate. That we do love you. You know.
No, you're not alone.
Wherever you're at, and whatever you're doing while you're sitting there watching this, the three of us, and you are not alone. And I've talked too much. I want to let Lisa talk for a little bit. Sorry, Lisa or Renee. I don't want you to take it up.
You know, a couple of other things you could do is a journal. One of the activities that one of my counselors gave me was to journal, and then at the end of the thing, I write 3 things that I'm thankful for. And
good.
if I can think of more, that's cool. But at least 3 things, and they have to be things that I haven't written down before.
Okay.
Which you think, I'm going to run out of things, but the more things I think of, the more things I think of.
Yeah, I read a clinical test. They said they did this with a group of physicians because they noticed that the physicians were struggling with depression, and they did this. They had them write 10 thankful things down, 10 things that they were thankful for every day, and they said it was as effective or more effective than than a chemical antidepressant. And I thought, that's amazing. And some of them actually probably need antidepressants, and that's not a problem in its own right. But to have that be so effective, just to sit down and write 10 things you're thankful for, is a pretty incredible thing. And I've noticed something. Be careful when you do this, because the temptation is, I am thankful for blah, blah, blah. And then you add a comma and a 3-letter word, but.
I knew you were going
to. Don't do that. Don't do the but. Just do the thing you're thankful for.
Don't qualify them right.
Yeah, and it's a struggle, because sometimes we want to be like, I'm thankful for this, but, and I tell you what, that 3-letter word, don't do that. Be thankful, and be unapologetically thankful, because there are always good things going on, even in the midst of despair and darkness. I mean, the way I like to say to churches, the light of the world, Christ is the light of the world, and the light has shone in the darkness, and the darkness cannot ever overcome it.
Yeah,
that's right.
So that's a spiritual exercise to be thankful.
With the podcast that I do, I have, and so when you were talking about journaling, like it's been a thought to do one day at a time, and do that on my front porch and record it, because that has been really successful as far as the front porch chronicles. And so it gives people a chance to see that they're not alone, and they're feeling the same thing. It's like, so, and for me to look back and say, when all of this is said and done.
Yeah. The same thing with the journal, to look back how you felt. That, I mean, wow.
Yeah. So that's hope. That's hope.
Yes.
It is.
Yes.
That
and sometimes that journal becomes that friend that you can't talk to.
Yes.
we talk about teenage girls and doing that, but grown women do it too, and men do it too. That's that one friend I can talk to, and is always there whenever I need it.
Yeah. And it's so powerful to know that you're not alone. So when you become vulnerable and put your thoughts or your feelings or your fears on a piece of paper, or whether it's a podcast or not, my response, the response that I get is like, I hear you. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that I was feeling the same way, and so it's powerful. And it's not just about us. When we open up and bear our fear and our concerns,
we're more connected than we ever thought we were.
Absolutely. So however you share during this time, and however you receive, just know that we are in it together, and we will get through it, and we will never be the same, and that's a good thing, as far as I'm concerned.
These are just growing things.
Yeah.
Well, and I think we're actually getting really close to time for where we'll probably need to go ahead and let people go. I want to say, if you are watching this, thank you. I hope this has been helpful, and I want to end kind of on a joyful note, because there's a couple things that I think that are really essential parts of the Christian faith that sometimes take a backseat. And one is the hope. We usually like to focus on, but I want to say right now we need to focus on faith and hope. And this is a way that when we go into this world and we live into our day-to-day habits, we aren't doing so with doom and gloom in our hearts and minds, or focusing on the despair, but we are choosing mentally and with our hearts to have thankfulness and joy and hope, and we are having the courage to do that in a difficult time. And so courage and hope are the ones that I want to end with. And at our church, we every Sunday we do a greeting before we go out and greet one another. We say the Lord is good, and everyone responds all the time. And this is really easy to say when things are going well.
Yeah.
But it is incredibly important to say when things are not.
Yeah.
It is harder.
The other day,
it is a work that, with the help of the Spirit.
The other day, we figured out a way to put YouTube up on the TV, and we were doing it to watch silly things, which is a good thing too. But after a while, I typed in acapella and put that up, had the YouTube, and they were playing all kinds of acapella Christian songs.
Okay.
And what a blessing that was to me. I could work and just listen to that in the background and be joyful.
Yeah.
And it was such a blessing that day.
Praise God.
I didn't even think about the music as the aspect too. Music can be a profound way, and be careful, because some music, kind of tunes us into our depression or something else, and we want to find ways that maybe admits that, but doesn't sometimes go into a dark place, but then they come back out trusting God. So I want to end on that profound declaration of hope, and that God is good all the time.
Yeah.
And I hope that wherever you're at today, that you have the courage, or you can have the courage to say that, and that in your heart that you can begin to believe it and trust it as we work towards engaging with this challenging time together. I'd also like to encourage you, if you've watched the video, we're going to put down beneath the contact for the church, an email address, phone number. And so if you need to call someone or talk to someone, you can get in touch with us in that way. And also, I'm going to try to link Renee's podcast so you can take a look in those. And it's going to take a little bit of finagling. I'm still kind of new to all this stuff. If you need help, I hope you reach out. But also, if this has resonated with you, let us know. We plan on trying to get a couple of more videos. This topic is bigger than what you can 5 minutes to an hour. And so if you have questions or thoughts, or you want to share your experiences, send them to that email address. and let us know what you're going through so that maybe we can come up and share. I don't know how often we're going to do this. We might try to do this next week or a week afterwards. If it's helping, we want to know, and we wanted to be an encouragement to you in making that declaration that God is good all the time. And so I hope you'll join me. God is good.
All the time.
All the time.
All the time.
God is good.
God is good.
Renee, Lisa, I can't tell you how thankful I am to have your experience and your wisdom here this morning and being shared out on the internet and the web, the ether, and all the people out there. So thank you.
Thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Sean.
You. Yeah, because it wouldn't have happened if you hadn't initiated. And so, thank you.
Yes.
I trust the Spirit is moving all the time.
Amen. Amen.